I wasn't going to talk about this, but one of the chevra was Myra that maybe it's Kedai, and I was thinking about that he's right. We use this time usually to learn Zohar Kodesh for 10-15 minutes, but maybe what I'm going to say now is a summary of the entire Zohar Kodesh. Of the entire Zohar Kodesh with the Tikkunim and the Zohar Kodesh, the whole Zohar, to try to summarize in 5-10 minutes to summarize. There was after the Massacre happened on Shabbos, we heard about Motzei Shabbos, we heard what happened in Pittsburgh, some of our brothers and sisters there, so there was the unbelievable heartbreak of hearing that terrible news, just like we feel in Yisrael, and things like this happen, we're heartbroken. And then there was this little thing inside of my head that went off and said, after a few hours, I was thinking, late Motzei Shabbos, I hope nobody is going to start twisting this in the wrong direction. And sure enough, there was an obscene, a vile clip of some rabbi going around yesterday, and I understand there's more than one, but one that was circulating, a number of Bachrim sent it to me, and some Balabatim sent it to me, and I could only listen to it for a minute, or I couldn't listen to such obscenity. And it was what I was most worried about. I only thought there was going to be, well, these are conservative Jews, they were davening a conservative temple, so that was one thing I was worried about. But then when it was Mizgala that it was also that there was an Indian there of two men that adopted a child, and that was the day that they were making the bris. This is what I was told in the temple. So that would give ammunition to the Chachamim from the Erev Rav. That's a compliment from the Sitra Achra Mamish, to start already talking about how, well, it's the Dar Mabul, these are people from the Mabul, these are people Machal Shabbos, they daven in a conservative temple, this is an union of men with men, and therefore, what do they expect? This is something that was coming to them. This is a warning to the Jewish people. This person said, there was a 97-year-old Jew that was just present there. So his fault, and the reason that he was killed according to this rabbi, is because he was present there. That he was present at a conservative temple on Shabbos when something that was obviously very inappropriate was taking place in terms of this type of an union of a man with a man and so on. And this is the conclusion that was reached by this rabbi. And of course he said that he can't be two-faced, he has to be honest, because he's the representative of Hashem and the Jewish people. He even called this talk that he gave a State of the Union address. That's what he called it. And it was, aside from the teichen that was very perverse, the tone was dripping with gaiva and with Sinas Yisrael, and it was something which needs to be deleted from the history of Am Yisrael. But to the Mizach, to the Indian, I'm not going into the Shitas HaPaiskim regarding the status of Jews who are killed because they're Jews. This is something which has been discussed many times. And I'm a child of survivors, and I think that anybody here that has any sensitivity and still has a Jewish heart beating inside understands that the conversation ends when Jews are killed because they're Jews. That's when the conversation ends. You could talk about different shitas in the poskim, but again, there's a hergish, there's a chush that a Jew has. That at that point we don't discuss anymore whether they're Shomer Shabbos and Chal Shabbos. These are people who, to begin with, are Tinokish and Nishbu. What do they know? They were raised with Torah, they were raised with Halacha, they don't know. All of these Jews, they still have a feeling of being Jews, that they want to come to daven, that they want to make a bris. They don't know anything, they weren't taught. And who were the Jews that were killed from the 6 million? They were all tzaddik and Rosh Hashivas and Rebbetzins that everybody calls Kedoshim, including probably that rabbi calls them also Kedoshim. There were so many of them were people that were going to church on Sunday, that didn't see themselves as being Jews b'chlal, and came from a world that was also, some of them came from the yeshivas, and some of them came to Negesh and Ishba. One of the most mysterious words in halacha is ki'ilu. It's a hard word, ki'ilu. How do you translate ki'ilu? As if. So we're learning Even HaEzer. We learned the first seven. There's a Chachma Shloime says a chiddush based upon the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yud Gimel. But the Gemara says that the Magadli Yosem Yisayim B'Tzech Beso is ki'ilu yolda, right? Ki'ilu yolda. If you raise an orphan in your house, it's ki'ilu you gave birth to the child. So the shaila is, Rebbe, what do you mean by that ki'ilu? Does ki'ilu mean that you mekayim the mitzvah of puruvu? Right? It's ki'ilu when you raise an orphan in your home. It's ki'ilu you gave birth to the child. So what is that ki'ilu? How far does that go? So the Chachma Shlomo says a chiddush that he holds that it's the mitzvah of puruvu, that it's like mamish having a child. That ki'ilu is very, very strong. There are many who disagree with that. There's a machlokas, a poskim in general, Taz and Drisha, and all the poskim are divided into two camps. In general, that's a machlokes in Yehudeya. In general, what does that mean, ki'ilu? Chashvalas mitzvah, you wanted to do a mitzvah and you couldn't do it. Ma'alol because of ki'ilu, it's as if you did the mitzvah. On the other hand, there's a sugya of mitzvah by yoisem b'shluchai, that when you have an opportunity to do something yourself, then ki'ilu is not the best, it's second best. Well, there's a tzaddik after whom our shul is named, who I feel ki'ilu is alive. You can take that and learn it any way you want. Ki'ilu is alive. And his portrait is in the hallway when you walk in, and his stamp is upon everything in this medrash here in Aish Kodesh. And that tzaddik lived through the worst of times. He wasn't the rabbi making speeches, you understand? He lived through the worst of times. And he knew all kinds of Jews. And the pact that he made at the end of his life, not to leave other Jews, but they'll go together wherever they are. He maybe one other of those were Jews that were Shomer Mitzvahs. But it was a pact that he made. So he has a Torah regarding the Akedes Yitzchak that I think that most of you know. And if you don't, it's definitely important to look at it. You know, Chazal tell us that the Eifer, the ashes of the Akedes Yitzchak is ki'ilu. It's munach al gabi mizbech. We spoke yesterday about Yitzchak is Kates Chai, the end and still being alive. So the Piazetznes Chusi says a very big chiddush. I'm not going to elaborate on it now. I'm expecting everybody to learn it when you can. We could talk about it a different time. But the Piazetznes said that Akedes Yitzchak took place in such a way where Yitzchak Avinu had all of the Ratzon in the world. And we can't be Massacre Yitzchak Avinu's Ratzon. It's the Koich of Gevura. He's the Merkava of Gevura. And all he wanted in the world was that he should be able to die Al Kiddush Hashem. He had all of the Ratzon to die Al Kiddush Hashem. Didn't happen. When I say it didn't happen. Al Tishtach Yadchel and Haratas Lamuma. Didn't happen. He wasn't killed. But the Ratzon was Gevaldik. The Ratzon is Gevaldik. The Ki'ilu is Gevaldik. Aked Ekach, that in some ways, we see it like he didn't get off the Akedah, and the ashes are on the Mizbeach, and we still daven the whole davening, Rosh Hashanah was all for these ashes. But L'maisa, he lived. It looked like he was dying, Kate, but Chai, he lived. The Rebbe said that the Kiddush Hashem that took place during the Holocaust, during the Milchama, was the opposite. The Jews who were killed during the Holocaust didn't want to die. In other words, they didn't have their Ratzon. They didn't have their Ratzon. Any one of them would have preferred living. They didn't want to die. They wanted to live in the Holocaust. And many of them are screaming, I don't want to die. I don't have any need with being a Jew. Right? The Ratzon was not there. But the Poil, not Ki'ilu, L'maisa, they were killed because they were Jews. So the Rebbe said that the Akedes Yitzchak is not an event that just happened one time. It's an ongoing process throughout history. The Ratzon began with Yitzchak Avinu, the will that a Jew has deep within himself, even though he might not know it. that every Jew has woven into the fabric of his being, like the Tanya explains in Yutes and Chav, Yutes, Yuchav, that's woven into the essence of his being, to give up his life to be a Jew, never to renounce his being a Jew. So Yitzchak Avinu was on fire with that Ratzon, but partly didn't carry it out. But every single Jew throughout time was killed because he's a Jew, even if he says, I don't want to die, I don't want to go, I don't care, I'm not into this. But when that Jew is killed because he's a Jew, so the Rebbe said that that's the completion of Akedas Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the one who had Ratzon but didn't die. And there are other Jews who died and didn't have such a Ratzon. And it's all one Metzias, one Chefetz of Kiddush Hashem. And that's why Yitzchak Avinu is at the end of time, the Gemara says in Shabbos, is the one who's going to say, Palgalai, Palgalach, that he's going to be the one to defend the Jewish people at the end of time, no matter what a Jew was, no matter where he came from, Bonim Atam Lashem Lokechem, Bonim Afilu Mashchisim, Afilu Mashchisim, Bonim Atam Lashem Lokechem. And the Rashba says we pass in the Reb Meir, Akash. So it's important for us to know that that's really what the Zohar Kodesh is all about. And when a person is talking from a place of pnimius, when a person is talking from a place where he saw Jews the way that the Aish Kodesh saw Jews, and he lived through a time of Kiddush Hashem, and he understood that just because a person is acting a certain way doesn't mean that that's the etzem of who he is. And certainly when we're talking about these Jews in this shul in Pittsburgh, that who were they, how were they raised? The Metzias is that they were killed because they were Jews. The murderer didn't hide that. That was his whole tachlis of going into that place. So how dare any person standing up, whether it's in the Five Towns or Great Neck or Borough Park or Yerushalayim for that matter, to stand up and to say that no, these are people from the Mabul, these are people who are Machal Shabbos and Mishkav Zocher v'chulu v'chulu. So let that be a warning to the Jewish people. Let that be a warning to all Jews. Hashem should forgive this person or these people for talking that way. And we should be Zocher Bez Hashem to see that the Nakam will be taken against any single person throughout time, whoever lifted a finger to spill one drop of blood from Zerah Avram and from Zerah Yitzchak and from Zerah Yaakov. We should be Zocher to see Tchias HaMeis and B'hem Yaminu Amen V'Amen. And you can send that to anybody you want. I was going to continue where we left off in our limud of the Zohar Kodesh, but during the break, during lunch, I saw that there were a number of messages that I had on my phone following up some things from yesterday, and I realized that of course this is all something that needs to be spoken about in not just in one shiur for an hour, but for hours and hours and hours. But it obviously touched a very, very sensitive point in the heart and the hearts and the minds of many, many Jews. So we're still going to learn a piece from the Zohar in a minute, but I wanted to follow up. So this is Chelik Beis, post Pittsburgh, Chelik Beis, because people have the right to understand that things that have been spoken are not only in opposition to the healthy, natural chush that a Jew has of being the correct response that Hashem Baruch wants us to have to something like this, what happened the other day, what happened on Shabbos in Pittsburgh. But there's also a tremendous amount of just old-fashioned amaratzes that needs to be addressed. Amaratzes, ignorance, and we need to understand the Torah's mahalach. When we look at anything that happens to us in life, individually, collectively, through the eyes of Chazal, through the eyes of the poskim, the Rishonim, the Achronim, the poskim, and so on. Again, it's a big subject, But just to touch upon it, again, this is just the last half hour, so I jotted down a thought or two. The Gemara in Pesachim Daf Nun tells the famous story of Rav Yosef, the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who, for a brief few moments, left the world. That his neshama went above. And you all know that his father asked him, "What did you see?" Olam hafuch. Everything is upside down. El yanu lamata, sartan lamala. What people don't know is that the Gemara continues on and tells us some fascinating things that he experienced while he was no longer in this world, during that time when he was away from the world. One of the things he said is, Shamati, I heard, in the world of truth, Shamati, Haruge Malchus, Ein Odem Yochel Lambad Memichitzas. I heard in the world of truth. One of the things about the world of truth is that everything there is true. This is an Alma de Shikra. In the world of truth, he said, Shamati, I heard, that Haruge Malchus, Jews who are killed for being Jewish, Jews who are killed by non-Jews for being Jewish, they have a mechitza in Shemayim, they have a schar in Shemayim that no other person can even be in that mechitza. The Gemara in Hedron, and Daf Mem Zayin, the Gemara says, goes on to qualify, because you could say, based upon the Gemara in Pesachim, that this is only talking about a very fine Jew, an outstanding person, who is killed by a non-Jew. But what about a person who's not an observant Jew? What about a person who's even a Russia? Now, this is the question. It's a big question. A person who's not religious at all, or God forbid, a person who's a Russia. So there in Sanhedrin and Daf Mem Zayin, the Gemara tells us, speaks about a Jew who's killed by a guy, mitoich rish'ai. Mitoich rish'ai means that he was not chayzer b'tshuva, while he was still in his state of rebelling against God. This Jew was killed by a guy. And havali kapara. And the Gemara there says that havali kapara, Rava says over there in the Gemara, the havali kapara, that he is forgiven automatically when he is killed al kiddush Hashem for being a Jew. He is forgiven automatically for all of his aveiros, for all of his sins. And not only that, but regarding this Jew who was killed by a guy mitoich rishai while being a Rasha, not having done tshuva in his life, he was killed in that state of rishus. The Gemara brings the pasuk in Tehillim Kapitel Ayin Tes, Mizmor la'asaf Elokim bo goyim benach lasecha. Rabbi Shalom, goyim have trespassed your place. Bo goyim benach lasecha. Timu es heichal kadshecha. They have defiled your holy place. And it goes on to say afterwards, Nosnu es nivlas avadecha ma'achol la'oif hashamayim, that our enemies have taken the corpses of avadecha, of your servants, la'oif hashamayim, to feed to birds, for birds to eat, and besar chasidecha l'chaisoi eretz, and the flesh of your righteous ones for the animals to feed upon. And the Gemara learns the pshat in pasuk. The Gemara learns here avadecha chasidecha is referring to your righteous one, a Jew who was completely not observant. The Gemara is talking about a Rasha, somebody who's against Torah, who's a Rasha, who understands what Torah is and goes against it, however one defines a Rasha. But once he is killed by a goy because of him being Jewish, now we're talking about a madrega of nivlas avadecha besar chasidecha. You look there in the Gemara at the bottom of the Amud and Zayin and Aleph in Sanhedrin, and you'll see what the Gemara talks about. The Rabbeinu Chananel says that not only that, but the kapara is immediate when this Jew is killed, even before the kvur, even before the burial, which normally brings about a tremendous kapara. Even before the burial, Rabbeinu Hananel says that the moment this person is killed, because he's Jewish, automatically everything is forgiven. It's complete kapara. The Shari Tshuva, Rabbeinu Yonah Shari Tshuva, I couldn't find it here. I have it at home. But I recall that Rabbeinu Yonah Shari Tshuva talks about from the moment of the Emas Upachad Hamisa, that from the second that the guy terrifies and frightens this Jew, even before he was actually killed, for fear of losing his life, there's already complete kapara. There's a complete kapara. Now this view is brought lahalacha by the Shach in Yeridei Siman Shin Mem Sifkat and Tes. With there, the Shach says that misosam is kaparosam, even though the person did not have the time or perhaps the interest to do tshuva, but the very fact that he was killed by a guy, misosam kaparosam. The Chasam Sofer in Yeridei Siman Shin Lamed Gimel also writes that any Jew who's killed by a guy, afilu mitoich rishai, even though this Jew is a rasha in his life, is miskaper miyad. For our brothers and sisters who have a special fondness for the Rambam, if you look in the Igeres Teiman, which is kedai to learn the whole Igeres Teiman, b'nogea to what we're talking about, but if you look in the Igeres Teiman, there the Rambam writes that any Jew who's killed by a guy because he's Jewish, the Rambam says he's a tzaddik gamur, and he's like the Asara Harugei Malchus, the 10 martyrs that we just davened about on Yom Kippur and in Kinas, the Asara Harugei Malchus, and like the Shiva B'nai Chana, who were killed, the 7 sons of Chana who were killed al Kiddush Hashem. And the Rambam says, Afilu haya rasha ki yeravam. That's pretty hard. Afilu haya rasha ki yeravam. These Jews in Pittsburgh, as I said yesterday, we're not talking about Rishayim. They don't know, they didn't learn, they weren't raised in a way of Kedusha. The Rambam says that this person is at Tzaddik Gomer, he's killed because he's a Jew. He's at Tzaddik Gomer, V'kasar Harugei Malchus, V'shiva B'nei Chana, Sh'nergu al Kiddush Hashem, V'afilu ha'yarasha ki yeravam. Afilu ha'yarasha ki yeravam. The Minchas Yitzchak writes in his tshuva, since based upon a tshuva, the Marach or Zerua, also in Siman Yudal, but the Minchas Yitzchak in the first Chelik Siman Pei Gimel, writes that even though when it comes to a person who's a mumar l'avodah zarah, again, it's pretty bad. We're not dealing here with a mumar l'avodah zarah. A person who's mumar, which Rashi says means he's oduk, right? He's attached deeply to avodah zarah. For such a person, the dinim of avela, strictly speaking, the laws of mourning are suspended. But the Minchas Yitzchak brings from many Rishonim to say that even a mumar l'avodah zarah who is killed by a guy because he's a Jew, even a mumar l'avodah zarah who is killed by a guy because he's Jewish, misablim alav. The din is to be misabel alav, that we mourn him, and that he's called a Kodesh, that he died, he was killed al Kiddush Hashem. This conversation goes beyond Pittsburgh. It reaches back to the Holocaust and other times in our lives. And what about soldiers in Eretz Yisrael, Jewish soldiers, men and women, who are defending their brothers and sisters every moment of their lives? They're defending their brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. What about a gay soldier? What about a soldier whose sexual preference was his own gender? No one's condoning these things. We're not talking about that. Just like no one's condoning Chil Shabbos, or nobody's talking about condoning a conservative style of davening, God forbid. We're not talking about that. But what about a soldier who's a conservative Machal Shabbos who's gay, and he's killed defending the Jewish people? What does the Olam say about such a Jew? The Olam says about him, Fech. The Olam says about him, he's from the Dar Mabul. If the people who say those things would be in Eretz Yisrael and they'd be driving in a scary neighborhood, they would be very, very much enamored by the Dar Mabul who are protecting them. They'd be very happy with Dar Mabul, Dar Hafloga, all the Lashonis that these people use. The Lashonis of sinna, of hatred, of cynicism. What about this? What about a soldier who's gay? A soldier who's gay. Anna Machal Shabbos. And he doesn't drink Chalav Yisrael. It's hard to believe there could be such a thing. What about a soldier like that? The only thing he does, he puts his life on the line every single minute of his life. He puts for us. He puts his life on the line. And Lo Aleinu, he's killed. Al Kiddush Hashem. So what? You spit on his grave? You don't allow him to be buried in a Jewish cemetery? What would the rabbis, these Rabbanim, what would they say? What would they say about such a Jew? About a soldier? He's not religious. So Hashem is teaching him a lesson. Ein Yisurim b'lo chet, Mida Keneged Mida, all the things that he highlighted in his Medrash and his Gemara. Not to say that there's no such thing as Midas Hadin, not to say that there's no such thing as Ein Yisurim b'lo chet, Mida Keneged Mida, but I said yesterday, and it has to be very clear, is that you could talk about all you like. And you like that way, and that makes you excited and makes you into a better Jew. You like to emphasize the Malchamavis, things like that. That works for you. There are different Mahalchim. There's Hanhagas HaYichud, Hanhagas HaMishpat, there's Igulim, there's Yosha. Wherever you come from, you could understand it any way that you like. But the conversation ends the second that a Jew is killed for being a Jew. That's the end of the conversation. Gemara. And we turn to the Gemara, and we turn to Psak Halacha. These Gemaras are talking about Rishayim. That soldier is not a Rasha. Chas v'chalila. At worst, the soldier is a Tinuk Shenishba. He was raised in a school system that taught him not to be Shemet Torah Mitzvahs. And even if he was, nowadays, I'm not getting to the whole conversation of Tinuk Shenishba and how do you define in our times a Tinuk Shenishba. But let's end with the Zohar Kodesh. Okay, since this is a Seder we have in Zohar, let's end with a piece of the Zohar. Again, I don't have a computer, and I was trying to reach into my head to remember something that would try to drive this point home. So the Zohar Kodesh is in Bereshis. If you take a look there in Lamed Tes Amud Aleph, you don't have that in the Zohar in front of you. Let me just share with you. But it's Lamed Tes Amud Aleph. It's a pachad what the Zohar is talking about over there are the Heicholas in Gan Eden. And Mashiach going from one Heichel to another Heichel, from one chamber, from one place in Gan Eden to another level of Gan Eden. Mashiach's going. V'notel my high Heichola. So the Zohar says that he left the third Heichel. V'ol b'Heichola Reviah. And he went into the fourth Heichel. V'tamon kol inun avei tzin v'Yushalayim. And who are the Jews in the fourth Heichel in Gan Eden? Avei tzin v'Yushalayim. Jews who mourned over the Churban. Avei tzin v'Yushalayim. V'chol inun ketoilei d'shar amin. And any Jew who was killed by a goy. Any Jew doesn't make other qualifications other than being killed by a goy. V'chol inun katoile deshar amin, v'yushari ubache. Mashiach comes into this heichel. It's interesting. In this same heichel are the avei tzin v'Yushalayim, and Jews who were killed by goyim, by our enemies, for being Jewish. V'iyu shari ubache. You listening? Every word of the Zohar. The Yushari Abachi. I'll give it afterwards, you could take a picture. Yushari Abachi. Mashiach is sobbing. Doesn't say that about the other Heichalas. When Mashiach comes into this Heichal and he sees these Yidden, he's crying. Uchedein kol inen nesiim desire the David kula achidan beyu menachem lei. All the nesiim from Beis David, all the eniklach from David HaMelech, come over there. That's Mashiach B'David. It's Mashiach's mishpacha. So all of the Bnei David, the Zerah David, they come there to Mashiach, who's in the fourth Heichel Gan Eden, and they hold on to him. Those are the words. Kulu achidan bei umenachem lei. They hold him and they give him the chama. Shorei tinyonu suboche. So they give him the chum, and he quiets down a little bit, Mashiach. He's comforted a little bit by the Zera David. And then he starts crying again. He starts crying again for these who were killed by Goyim and the Tzaras of Yisrael, and he can't be Makabel Tanchumen. Ad the Kala Nafik, listen, Ad the Kala Nafik Misachid Bahu Kala, until there's a voice that comes out from the Shechina herself, and Mashiach grabs onto that voice that comes from the Shechina. V'salik la'ela, and with holding on to that voice of the Shechina, Mashiach is able to ascend la'ela to the Gan Eden Elyon, to the higher Gan Eden. V'shtoi tamon, and he's able to stay there ad Reish Yarcha. He's able to stay there until Rosh Chodesh, because the Nechama will come, because all the tzaros of this world is because of the Pagam Halavana, and he's able to stay there until Rosh Chodesh. All right, we're not going to go into that right now. V'chad nochis nochasen yimei kamen aharon v'ziven. And when he descends, when Mashiach comes down from that place, after Rosh Chodesh he comes down, then many naharon v'ziven, many iris, and ziven like ziv, rays of light, come down with him. Minaharon l'chol inun heicholen, that illuminate all the heicholas of Gan Eden Tachtain, of the lower Gan Eden, where these neshamas of these Jews are to be found, back in the Heichel Revi, the fourth Heichel. And with this light that comes down from Gan Eden Elyon, there descends into this Heichel a light of refuah, of healing, for all those who were murdered by Goyim. Uvneimar and the Machayev and the Sevil we made the Mashiach, and all those who are suffering and in pain, who cry together with Mashiach Tzidkeinu over the godless of the Jewish people. Just a drop more. Uchedein purpir alavish. When a Jew is killed by a Goy, I mentioned this once on Tisha B'Av. When a Jew is killed by a Goy, Mashiach puts on a certain lavush, a certain garment. Tamon chakik in a rishim and kol inun katorli deshar amin bahu purpira. And in that garment there are engraved, the images of all those Jews over time who were killed by Goyim for being Jewish. Again, it doesn't say whether they wore tzitzis, they didn't wear tzitzis. Tzadikim Yishai. V'salik ahu purpira la'ela v'schakak tamon go purpira iloi de malka. And Mashiach then ascends with this levush, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I guess they have the technology up there to do this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the chakikis from the purpira, from the levush, from the aderis, the garment of Mashiach, and how do you do that? Like you're able to transfer from one computer to the other computer. So the Baruch Shalom transfers the chakikis of those images of Jews that Mashiach has, that he brought up with him from the Gan Eden Tachton, of those Yidden that were killed for being Jews. He takes it up to Shemaim, and the Baruch Shalom takes those and makes those chakikis and rishimis on his garment. Go purpira ilo de malka, purpira ilo de malka, the garment, the lavush of the Rebbeinu Shalom. V'kutshabrichu zamin la'albosha hu purpira l'meidan amin. In the future, Hashem is going to put on that coat that has a picture, an image, an engraving of every Jew that was ever killed by a goy al kiddush Hashem, regardless of his particular background, and regardless of his portfolio, and whether or not people approve of him or don't approve of the way that he lived. It's the way that he died. And Hashem is going to put on this coat, L'meidan Amen, to judge those goyim that did this, to judge the nations of the world. Pashta says that the nations of the world who brought such people into the world, but the murderers certainly in particular. The Chsiv Yodin Ba'goyim Mole Geviyos. Hashem is going to, what we say in Avraham on Shabbos, Yodin, Hashem is going to bring judgment upon those goyim, because Hashem is Mole Geviyos, because Hashem's levush, his coat, is packed. Mole Geviyos. What does it mean Geviyos? Bodies, corpses, cadavers. Mole Geviyos. You hear when you say that on Shabbos, you can hear, it'll be better. No, it'll be more geschmack. Yodin Ba'goyim Mole Geviyos. And then the Zohar says, Ad the Asav Anachim line. Then Mashiach will finally have Nechama. V'nochasen imei naharin v'yidunin l'is adna. And then all of the neshamas of those Jews that were killed are going to be able to delight fully when they see the Nekama. When they see that revenge that Hashem will take, that he didn't forget them. Then they'll be able to delight in all of the iris of Shemayim, whatever, in Gan Eden. And all kinds of malachim and the markovis of the malachim are going to be there. And kol chad v'chad malbusha dislabsha b'hu kol inin nishmas nekatoilan. And every malach is going to wear, connected each Jew, there's going to be a malach that's going to wear a particular coat for that Jew, with his image engraved in that coat. L'slabsha b'hu kol inin nishmas nekatoilan. The Tamon Misadnin, and there those neshamas in the fourth Heichel are going to have a gewaldige Gan Eden. Kalahu zimne diu salik v'nachis. It goes on and on. I think it's enough for now. For each and every one of us to understand that Sai in Nigla and in Pnimius HaTorah, that the only thing we could say about a Jew, regardless of his background or her background that was killed for being a Jew, is Ashracha v'Toivlach. There were great tzaddikim who were jealous of such people. We don't wish it upon any Jew. We don't wish it upon ourselves. But we do wish, we do daven that the time will come when terrible tragedies like this take place, they're not used by the people who, I'm certain, mean well, but they're not used as an opportunity to divide, to separate, but rather as an opportunity to bring Jews together, to remind us of we're all wearing the same coat. We're all on the list of that guy that ran into Pittsburgh. He just happened to be on Squirrel Hill. That's where that Rasha lived, and he happened to be able to get those Jews in that synagogue in Tree of Life. But all of our enemies throughout all of the years, they're looking for the geviyos of each and every Jew. And the Hashem Yisrael should help us that we should come to the time that those neshamas will be finally consoled, not only from what happened to them in this world, but from that thought or that feeling that maybe the Moshe doesn't love them. Maybe they also watched that clip or something, and for some reason they think that maybe the Moshe doesn't love them, and they'll be able to see that what they did was something which was, even though, again, as I explained yesterday, even though they didn't have it in mind and they didn't want that to happen, but what they did was the completion of that Kedosh Yitzchak, that Kosh Baruch Hu, see Berachim Tizka, the Hashem, you should remember Berachim him to all Zeri Yitzchak, and we should be Zerachim as Hashem to see the Glash of our Mitzvah. Maybe Amen, Amen, Amen.